The great untruth that has been sold to you is that after 65, your body simply runs out of stem cells, that you are an empty vessel waiting for the end. But as a physician who has spent over 20 years in the ER and specialized in the high-stakes biology of metabolic science, I am here to tell you that the empty tank theory is scientifically dead. The reality revealed by researchers at Stanford and MIT is much more interesting and much more actionable. At 65, you still have nearly all the stem cells you had at 25. They haven't disappeared, they've just stopped working. They are locked in a deep sleep, trapped in what we now call an atoxic aging environment. Think of your stem cells as an elite maintenance crew. In your 20s, the crew is active, the radio is clear, and they are constantly repairing your muscles, bones, and heart. By 65, the crew is still in the building, but the factory floor has become so loud, so cluttered, and so toxic that they've retreated to the break room and locked the door. They aren't dead, they are just unable to hear the alarm. Hi, I'm Dr. Brooks. After 2 decades as an investigative clinician, I've learned that the secret to longevity isn't buying new stem cells in an exotic clinic. It's about cleaning up the neighborhood so the ones you already have can get back to work. In this investigation, we are going to uncover the R5 biological handcuffs that paralyze your stem cells and the precise, evidence-based protocol to unlock them. We will cover the retired worker, poison, why cells that refuse to die, senescent cells, are screaming inflammatory noise that prevents your repair crew from hearing the signal, the lysosomal trash pile, how your cell's internal recycling centers get clogged, and the juvenile metabolism reset discovered at Mount Sinai. The 3-year window myth. Why there is no deadline for regeneration, but why the next 36 months are your most critical period for a systemic reboot. The cycling D1 alarm. The specific protein that acts as the alarm clock for your muscles, and the 150-minute habit that wakes it up. To understand how to reactivate your body, we have to look at the Chuanka stem cell ish. Imagine a world-class athlete being forced to live in a house filled with smoke, trash, and constant construction noise. No matter how talented that athlete is, they won't perform. This is your niche. The first handcuff is the accumulation of senescent cells. These are zombie cells that should have died but didn't. Instead, they stay behind and secrete a toxic cocktail called SASP. These signals, like IL-6 and TNF-alpha, are originally meant to call for help, but as we age, they become a permanent poison in the neighborhood. I've seen the proof of concept in my own research reading. In 2019, the Mayo Clinic proved that this toxic load isn't fixed, it's reducible. By clearing these zombie cells, we saw an 8% increase in stem cell precursors in just 14 days. But the investigative clinician knows that clearing the trash is only half the battle. You also have to fix the internal recycling of the stem cell itself. Right now, inside your bone marrow, the recycling plants, your lysosomes, are likely overwhelmed. They are piling up damaged proteins and broken mitochondria, which triggers an internal alarm called gas sting. This makes the cell toxic to itself, but when researchers treated these aged cells with specific recycling inhibitors, they recovered what was described as a juvenile metabolism. The question is, how do you trigger this juvenile state without expensive drugs? It starts with the refeeding cycle and a specific type of movement that most seniors are told to take easy on. To understand the juvenile reset, we have to address the muscle alarm clock. In my 20 years of practice, I've seen thousands of patients over 65 accept muscle loss, what we call sarcopenia, as an inevitable tax of time. But the research from Nature Metabolism has exposed the great untruth behind this decline. Your muscle stem cells, or satellite cells, aren't dead. They are in a state of deep quiescence. Think of them as being in a coma. The alarm clock that is supposed to wake them up to repair your tissues is a protein called cyclin D1. As we age, the batteries in that alarm clock die. The signal of daily wear and tear becomes too quiet to wake the crew. But here is the investigative breakthrough. In 2020, researchers took 70-year-old equivalent subjects and put them on a 3-week voluntary aerobic protocol. The result? A total restoration of cyclin D1. The alarm clock was replaced. The stem cells woke up and began repairing muscle at near youthful speeds. Image muscle fibre repair in a sedentary 70-year-old, an active 70-year-old. But it's not just about the muscles. We have to look at the myeloid bias. This is the fourth biological handcuff. Inside your bone marrow, your stem cell academy is responsible for producing 2 types of recruits: the infantry, the general fighters that cause inflammation, and the special forces, adaptive cells that remember viruses and vaccines. As we age, a hormonal signal called IGF-1 puts the academy on high alert. Under this stress, the academy stops training special forces and starts overproducing infantry. This is why, after 65, you might feel chronically inflamed but immuno-weak at the same time. You have too much noise and not enough precision. You're more susceptible to infections and less responsive to vaccines because your stem cells are being steered toward dysfunction. But research from the Longo lab at USC showed that a specific fasting refeeding cycle, Brotio, can force the academy to stand down. By lowering IGF-1, the stem cells reset their training program and start producing special forces again. Image: bone marrow production shifting from inflammatory cells to adaptive immune cells. However, I have to be the insider here. Standard 16.8 fasting might not be enough for a 65-year-old. And 48-hour fast can be dangerous if you have blood pressure or blood sugar issues. The investigative clinician looks for the metabolic middle ground, a way to trigger autophagy, cellular self-cleaning, without starving the body of the protein it desperately needs to keep those satellite cells awake. This brings us to the Brooks 5-pillar protocol. Most people think health is a list of things to stop doing. I look at it as a list of signals to send. Your cells are listening to your habits every hour. The first pillar is the zone 2 signal. To wake up cyclin D1 and clean the toxic niche, you need 150 minutes a week of moderate intensity cardio. I'm talking about a conversational pace where you can speak but you're working. This isn't just burning calories. It is a systemic reprogramming of your inflammatory landscape. But if you don't pair that with the anabolic trigger, you are leaving your construction crew without raw materials. After 65, your body becomes anabolically resistant. You need more protein than a 20-year-old just to get the same repair signal. This is where the anabolic gap becomes a life or death reality for anyone over 65. In my 20 years of clinical practice, I've seen thousands of seniors following the standard dietary advice, which usually means less protein and more heart-healthy grains. But as an investigative clinician, I look at the mTOR signaling pathway. To wake up those sleeping satellite cells and force them to build muscle, you need a massive protein pulse, because your body has become anabolically resistant. A 20-gram chicken breast that would have triggered muscle growth at age 25 does absolutely nothing at age 65. You are effectively starving your repair crew while they're on the job. Brooks Master Protocol requires 1.2 to 1.6 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. For a 170 lb adult, that's roughly 100 to 120 grams of protein daily. But here is the insider secret. Distribution is everything. You must hit each 25 to 40 grams of protein in a single sitting, particularly within 2 hours of your Zone 2 exercise. This protein spike is the only thing loud enough to override the toxic noise of inflammaging and tell your stem cells to start the renovation. Image protein synthesis signaling in a young adult versus the blunted response in a 65-year-old. The third pillar of the protocol is the autophagy reset, to clear out that lysosomal trash pile. We discussed the internal clog that paralyzes your stem cells. You need a metabolic quiet period. I recommend a most up to 14-hour time-restricted eating window. If you finish dinner at 6 p.m., do not eat again until 8 m. This isn't about weight loss, it is about cellular housekeeping. During those final 4 hours of fasting, your body stops processing and starts recycling. It triggers the Yilmaz lab refeeding phase, where your intestinal stem cells show their peak activity the moment you break that fast. The cycle of fasting and eating is more powerful than just the fast itself, but we cannot ignore the circadian handcuff. Your stem cells are governed by a 24-hour internal clock. When that clock is blurry due to poor sleep or blue light exposure at 11 p.m., your stem cells lose their sense of timing. They don't know when to sleep, quiescence, and when to work, activation. The Mailer's stem cell sleep protocol is non-negotiable. 7 to 9 hours of consistent sleep. Morning light signal. 15 minutes of natural sunlight within 1 hour of waking. This resets the master clock in your brain, which then synchronizes the repair crew in your bone marrow. Image the circadian rhythm's direct control over stem cell wake-sleep cycles. Finally, we have the targeted supplements that actually have the investigative data to back them up. Forget the $200 stem cell pills sold online. The real biosignals are 1. Vitamin D3 40 to 60 ng/1 ml. Check your levels. Without D3, your immune stem cells are blind to threats. 2. Omega-3s 2,4-G daily. This is the industrial lubricant for your stem cell niche, directly reducing the IL-6 noise that poisons the neighborhood. 3. Quercetin from food. Red onions, capers and apples. These are natural senolytics. They help nudge those zombie cells toward a natural death so that repair crew can take back the factory floor. The great untruth is that the window is closing. The truth is that our compounding starts today. In my 2 decades in the ER, I've seen 70-year-olds who have the biological resilience of 40-year-olds, and 40-year-olds whose stem cells are already retired. The difference isn't a secret clinic in Mexico, it's the cumulative signal. Of these 5 pillars, your stem cells are listening. They aren't dead, they are just waiting for the right neighborhood. Image a rejuvenated stem cell niche after 6 months of the 5-pillar protocol. I want to know, which of these 5 handcuffs do you feel is currently holding your body back? Is it the sleep, the protein gap, or the lack of Zone 2 movement? Leave a comment below. I use your real-world feedback to direct my next clinical investigation. Keep investigating. Dr. Brooks out.